What's going on, guys? Alright, so picked up the DC Multiverse Batman. This is part of that Solomon Grundy collectible wave. This is the kind of Arkham Batman. And I'll be honest, this wave didn't do anything for me when it got announced and when I saw pictures and all that kind of stuff. Don't care about that Penguin figure. The Ra's al Ghul didn't do anything for me. The Catwoman didn't do anything for me. And this was just yet another Batman in Mcfarlane's long line of Batman figures. And I have enough Batman figures already. Didn't want another one, so had no interest in this whatsoever. But I rolled into the store and they had two figures. They had the Ra's al Ghul and they had the Batman. They had a bunch of Ra's al Ghul. They only had one Batman. And I saw the Ra's first and just looked at it and was like, meh, didn't really do nothing for me. I saw the Batman sitting there and had no interest in it whatsoever, but I looked at him and I was like, ah, man, he looks kind of cool. So I picked him up. So I got the guy here. Again, this was not something I planned to get. I have a ton of Batman figures, and for somebody like me who's, you know, I'm not the biggest Batman fan. Let's just say that. I mean, Batman looks really cool, makes for great action figures, but as a character, I've never been a huge Batman fan. So, you know, I have enough Batman figures, but this guy looked really cool, and so I went ahead and got him. I caved into peer pressure. I let the Todd father guilt me into buying another figure because he made one that looked really cool. Of course, we don't even get a picture of the figure on the back, just Solomon Grundy. Which, what's sad is actually the Solomon Grundy figure I actually would be interested in. I just really don't want to have to buy this whole wave to get it because these other three figures down here, I'm just not interested in at all. None of them do anything for me. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But we got this guy here, so let's go ahead and crack him open and see what we've got inside. Alright, so we got him out of the package here. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the accessories. Obviously, you know, we get our standard card and stand, which at least this card is an actual, like, you know, picture of the character from the game and not just a picture of the action figure. Then the stand, I've got an extensive collection of those things sitting in a drawer now. And then we've got his grapple gun. And then, of course, we get Solomon Grundy's legs here. So that's what we've got in the way of accessories. Not a lot, but there you have it. All right, so as far as the figure itself goes, I got to say, this is a pretty good-looking Batman. I mean, this looks really nice. I like the suit where it just has some hints of being a little high-tech. You know, you've got the gauntlets here. You got some, you know, appearance of armor here and there, a little bit on the arms, obviously on the boots, things like that. But overall, it still kind of maintains that classic just black and gray look with the nice yellow belt. You know, it's a nice simplistic design, I think, and I think it works well. It's one of the better Batman figures, I think, that Mcfarlane has put out. I think this is a good one. I think it works well. I do like it. Sometimes he goes a little overboard in details with armor and things like that, and it gets to be a little much. And this one definitely kind of holds that back a little bit and gives us enough to kind of feel like a high-tech armored suit, but not too much still to keep that kind of classic Batman comic book look. So I do like that. It's done really well as far as the design goes. And I mean, there's not a lot of paint on here, honestly. You've got some paint here on the knuckles. Obviously the symbol here is pressed in, that's just plastic. Everything else, there's no detail on the boots. Everything here is just molded in. I think probably the only paint on this entire figure is probably on the face and then on the knuckles here. Everything else is just molded into the color of plastic that they wanted it to be. The cape is fine. I'm not a big fan of these stylized capes, as you guys know. So it would be nice to just kind of have a plain cape, but you know, whatever, it's Batman. I'll deal with it. Overall, it's a good Batman. It works well. One thing I don't like is the fact that we've got single jointed elbows here. I don't know why. I know this is kind of a redo of an older figure. Maybe that's it, but that's kind of disappointing. We do have double jointed knees. I'm not going to go into all the articulation here because this is basic, Mcfarlane articulation. This is just a redo of an older figure with a slightly different face sculpt, I believe, or maybe just slightly different paint on the face sculpt. So there's not a lot to talk about here as far as articulation goes. Basic Mcfarlane DC Multiverse articulation. But the figure's done well. It is a good figure. It is a good Batman. I do like the looks of it. Like I said, it rides that line between, classic comic book look and kind of a more modern, armored Batman. I think it's good. I think the sculpt is good. What little paint is on it is fine, for what it is. It works. And it is Batman, so black and gray with a little bit of yellow. That's really all you need. And this did it well. So there's not a lot going on here with this figure. It doesn't stand out for any reason. There's nothing amazing about it, but it's good. It works. And, there's not really much more to say about it other than that. It works. It does what it needs to do. And, there you go. So let's go ahead and compare him to some other figures and see how this Batman stacks up. Alright, so to throw this guy up against what I think are probably the two best Batman figures we've gotten out of Mcfarlane. On the left, we got the Three Jokers Batman. On the right, we've got Detective Comics 1000 Batman. I love these two figures. I think they're both done really, really well. Obviously, the Three Jokers Batman is this tall, huge, hulking character that's probably way bigger than Batman or Bruce Wayne should be, but I still think he works. I still think it's well done, and I just kind of love the Detective Comics 1000. But this dude, this Arkham Batman, I think really does hold his own. The only downside to him, honestly, isn't sculpt or paint apps or anything like that, or just overall design of the figure. It's just those single jointed elbows. That's the biggest thing hurting this figure over these two. And so I think I still like these two a little bit better, but I do like this Arkham Batman. It's just got one little thing that I think, kind of puts it behind the curve. Alright, for some other DC 7-inch scale stuff, not from Mcfarlane here, we've got some of the DC Collectibles Essentials. We've got Aquaman on the left, fantastic figure. We've got Cyborg Superman on the right, another fantastic figure, kind of one of the DC holy grails of my collection there. And, I think he works perfect. I am a big fan of the DC Collectibles Essentials line. In fact, in some ways, I think it is a better line than one Mcfarlane's putting out, although you will pay for that. These are not cheap figures. But, all in all, I think this Arkham Batman does hold his own with these two. Okay, so for some 6-inch scale comparisons here, we have the two greatest Spider-Man figures of all time, period, end of story, hands down. On the right, we've got Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man, and on the left, we have got what I think is just the greatest figure ever that Hasbro has done, which is, of course, Japanese Spider-Man. This thing is just awesome. Anyway, this video is not about that, but this gives you a good sense of scale between 6 and 7-inch. Alright, so let's talk about price here real quick. And in case you haven't noticed lately, prices for Mcfarlane have gone up. They kind of snuck them in there on a figure-by-figure basis, but basically right now, if you go to a Target or a Walmart and see any of the newer figures, whether they be Page Punchers or DC Multiverse, they are no longer selling for 20 bucks, they're selling for 25, and that's what this thing costs, $24.95. Picked them up at Target, and the prices have creeped up. So we are now talking about figures that are selling for the same price as your average Marvel Legend. Now, as of yet, Mcfarlane hasn't gone up more than that, as we've seen with Marvel Legends going for $25, $28, or $33, and in even a couple of cases, $36. So we haven't seen that from Mcfarlane yet, unless you get into the mega figs, but their prices have creeped up. So we are now talking about probably going forward an average of 25 bucks a piece. That's what this guy costs. Is it worth it? Honestly, with so many Batman figures out there, I would probably have to lean towards saying no, it's not worth it, because there's a lot of really good Batman figures out there. We've seen just a couple of them in this video that I think are better Batman figures that have better articulation and maybe even better detail. And that's not to knock this figure. It is a cool figure. I do I do like him. He looks great. It is a good sculpt, but this is a very simple design, and there's almost no paint on this thing whatsoever. And when you have so many other options out there for Batman figures, is this one worth the new price hike? And I would say probably not. I mean, unless you're just a big fan of, the Arkham City stuff, then maybe, yeah. But for most people, I think it might kind of be a pass at $25 because there's a lot of really good Batman figures out there that Mcfarlane has done that you can get probably maybe even a little bit cheaper. So, this one might be a pass for a lot of people, but it is a cool figure. I do like it. And I don't mind the price. I mean, given what figures are costing now, $25 seems to be the new norm. I don't like it, but I understand that's the way the market is going, and I guess if I want to keep collecting, I'm just going to have to accept that. If I want to buy a new figure at retail, that's going to be the going price for it. So, is it worth it on the sense that that's what figures go for? Sure, I guess. Is it worth it in this particular case in that you have a Batman with older articulation, with single jointed elbows, when there are so many other Batman figures out there in the line that in some cases may be better than this? Well, in that case, no. It's not worth it. Look, I mean, I'm glad I have the figure. He is a good figure. I do think he is one of the better, Batman figures that Mcfarlane has put out. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's a good sculpt with almost no paint, but still a good sculpt and a good look. So I do like it. So I'm glad I have it. Would I go back and buy it again? Probably not. Would I run out there and say that everybody needs to buy this figure? No, not really. You don't need to buy it. The only reason to buy this is if you are an Arkham City or Arkham Knight or Arkham whatever game fan. I mean, that's really the only reason to buy this. Otherwise, there are better, live action versions of Batman. There are better armored versions of Batman. There are better comic accurate versions of Batman out there. And they're all already in the DC Multiverse lineup and available to get. So you don't really need this one. And that's kind of how I feel about it. So there you go, guys. Look, it's a good figure, but it's not a necessary figure. And, I'm glad I have it. I'm glad I picked it up just because it is a cool looking Batman, but it's not really something I can recommend everybody run out and get because it's just yet another Batman figure in a growing collection of DC Multiverse Batman. And sure as hell, in 2 weeks, we'll probably get announcements for 5 more Batman figures, just like we did at New York Comic-Con last week. So, look, if you want to get it, cool. It's $25. Is it worth it? Maybe it is to you. You'll just have to make that decision for yourself. So, there you go, guys. That's it. Thanks for watching, and we will talk to you later.